Kanika Raajdev is a visionary business leader who founded Mindcog to bridge the gap between market intelligence and strategic execution. With over 18 years of experience in consulting globally across India, Romania, France, Singapore, and the UAE, and has a history of building database strategic models, delivering significant business results. Kanika has led more than 500 organizational interventions for 140 plus organizations, ranging from high growth startup organizations to Fortune 500 organizations. Her skills have developed clients reduce risk on critical business calls at a constant 30 to 40% from perception on market entry, product development to stakeholder alignment and strategic decisions. Outside her consulting practice, she holds both the local and global chair for Thai women and Thai cross border and is passionate about global entrepreneurial leadership. She has mentored 100 plus MBA students, is faculty at the Art of Living, delivered 200 plus workshops on mindful leadership and strategic thinking in corporate sector, government certified yoga instructor. A market research and growth strategies expert who helps organizations look beyond the numbers using deep insights into consumer behavior, market trends, and identify opportunities for sustainable growth.
Okay, so let me quickly introduce myself and introduce what I do, my company, and then we'll move on to today's topic, right? So my name is Kanika, and I'm the founder and CEO of Mindcog. Mindcog is a strategy consulting and market research firm. I started this company about 3 years ago. We're about 20 people strong right now. Primarily, our operations office is in Chandigarh and in Delhi, and we also have a sales office in London. I started this company by myself, so I'm the solo founder. We've not raised any funding for this company. It's completely bootstrapped. Whatever we've earned, we've put back in the company and we've grown the company from there on. Before that, I've had a long corporate career. So by education, I'm an engineer from Punjab Engineering College. Some of you would know this already. And after that, I worked for about 7 years in research and consulting in India and then in Europe. And then I did my MBA from INSEAD. And post INSEAD, I have worked with PayPal, with Google, with Publicis Sapient, and many such companies. Yeah. So that's my brief introduction. In terms of what kind of projects we do, we do a lot of strategy work. We do data analytics projects. We also do market surveys. We do projects which are pure play market research. What market research is, we'll understand more. I'm sure you are aware of the term, but we'll know more about it as we move along. Yeah. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and then we'll start the class for today, the master class for today. Yeah. So I'm going to minimize this here. All right. So today, so your college reached out to me to say that, can you do a session on market research? And I've done research since like the beginning of my careers. And in total, I have about like 18 to 20 years of experience in this field. So for me, like I know research and consulting like the back of my hand. So it was more, it's for me to capture it all in like a 1.5 hour session is a lot. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to capture the most important essence of it. We've put some examples, we've put some case studies. We also have an exercise in between. So it'd be really good if you all have like a pen and paper, nothing to send me or anything, but just like to quickly do the exercise. And I would also ask you to unmute yourself and give me those answers in between. Yeah, does it work? Everyone, can you show me a thumbs up? Yeah, all right. So I can see some thumbs up going in. All right. Just 1 second. All right. So think like a founder. When I was coming here, it seemed only relevant that if I am going and speaking about a topic, I don't want to come across as just another teacher of yours because all your professors, I'm sure they are great. But if I'm coming here as an entrepreneur, then I want you to learn from a founder's perspective and entrepreneur's perspective. And that's why it's called Think Like a Founder. Yeah. So the first thing we want to talk about is, do you know that without market validation, 1 in 3 startups are failing? Are you aware of this? Anybody knows about this stat? That if you don't do market validation, there is 1 in every 3 startups fail, which means 33% of all startups fail because they had not properly validated the market. And when it comes to startups which have actually validated their products, they are 2.5 times more likely to reach a sustainable goal. So if you look at these two graphs here, these two lines on this graph here, there is one which say even if it saw some growth initially, it plateaued here. But there's a second one which, because it had done proper market validation, it knew that there was a proper opportunity and it knew which customers to go after, and hence it is showing a growth which is more like an exponential growth. You see this? We also call it a hockey stick growth. And that is what we're going to learn today. The purpose and importance of market research. Why is it relevant? Why is it so important? What happens if you don't do it? We'll also look at some examples. What some success studies wherein they have actually done it and they have succeeded. How to go about it. We'll cover all of this today. Yes? Okay. So, why do you think market validation is necessary, firstly? Anybody who want to take a shot at this question, please raise your hand or unmute yourself and just give me an answer. Anyone? There's no wrong answers, by the way, okay? Anybody who would want to take a shot at this, why do you think it's necessary? Come on, take a shot at it. I want to make it an interactive session. I don't want to make it a one-way monologue. Otherwise, it'll be very boring for you guys also. Okay. Kanishk has raised his hand. Kanishk, can you please unmute yourself and give me an answer?
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah.
So what I think is to know our customer base, most
Mm-hmm.
probably. That's what I think that market validation is necessary.
That's a very good answer. It's very important to know your customer because it's like, who are you making your product for? Who are you making a service for? You need to understand that. Very good answer. Anybody else who wants to take a shot? Okay, so I'm going to resume and we will take it from where we left off. And I'm going to keep doing this, by the way. I'm going to keep asking you questions intermittently. Yeah. I'm assuming my screen is visible again. So the reason why
Yes, ma'am.
great. So the reason why market research or market validation is important are, we're going to look at these reasons now. Number one is risk reduction. So if I'm going, starting a business is a risky proposition fundamentally. You would all agree to it because you're going to put in a lot of energy, your time, some resources into it. So you want it to succeed. So when you validate whether your idea or your concept is actually going to fly or not, you want to make sure that it is not as risky as it is in theory. You want to do some kind of validation. So risk reduction will be, as in, sorry, the market validation will actually help you in risk reduction. Yeah. Second is resource optimization. So whenever an entrepreneur starts out, you would have a limited sum of money. Even if you've raised funds, there is a limited source of resources that you have in terms of money, in terms of employees, or in terms of initial people who start working together. It's limited. So you want to make sure that you are directing your efforts in the right direction. So market validation is important for resource optimization. Talk. Third, customer centric. Like Kanishk just pointed out, it is very important that we make sure that whatever we are making, whatever product, service, solution we're making, it is relevant for our customer. So your idea or your concept is customer centric. And last is smart scaling. So why smart scaling? Remember, we just saw those two, but that graph where we had those two lines. Both two lines were actually increasing in the beginning. Even somebody who has not validated their market might initially see some growth. They might experience some growth. Some people are buying out, whether it's B2C or B2B. But if there is not enough, the market is not big enough, then it can just plateau there. So if you really want to scale, it is important that you validate how big the market is, how big the opportunity is, which is another reason why doing market research or properly validating your market is extremely important. Yes. Moving forward. Now, you would ask, what are the key steps in this process? Okay. And this sort of forms the base for the rest of the deck that we are going to take forward now. First, know your audience or know your target, or basically identifying your right target audience. So what Kanishka said is absolutely correct. So let's say I'm in a B2C space. I'm assuming you all understand B2C and B2B, right? So B2C is where you're selling to an end consumer. It could be a product, it could be a service. So for example, I'll give you a very basic example. A B2C product is like these AirPods. I'm in the B2C market. But if I'm selling a solution like what Mindcog does, we are a consulting company and we are actually selling strategy consulting projects for other businesses. So those are B2B. In either case, it's very important to understand who my target audience is because accordingly, the rest of the steps will follow. Okay, now let's look at the second step, researching market trends and customer needs. So now that I've understood who my customer is, it's very important to understand what are the needs, desires, and pain points of my customers. Correct? So, say today you want to make another pair. Let's continue with the AirPods example, right? AirPods already existed when Boat actually came out in the market. So you might ask, today there's Boat, there's Noise, there's so many other such brands who are offering earbuds, so to speak. Okay, AirPods are obviously belong to Apple, but earbuds, as they're called. Why was there a need for other brands to come in? So they had to do their research. They had to understand what is the NDP, as we call it, of their ideal customer, and to make sure that whatever product they're offering, it is solving something for for their potential customers. So, for example, it could either be a feature that was missing. Number two, it could be that what about accessibility? Accessibility could be in two terms. It could be that not everybody can afford AirPods, so they need a cheaper product. Number three, it could be that AirPods are not compatible with Android phones. That is another reason. So I'm just giving you things from the top of my head that understanding your customers, what are their needs, what are their pain points, what are their desires is very relevant. And at the same time, researching market trends on a larger scale. Do they think that this market is growing? Is this market growing? Only then it makes sense for them to step into this market. So second step is researching the market trends and understanding the customer needs. Yeah. Third, of course, when you launch a business, we initially call it, say, piloting your concept or your solution. So whenever you're trying something out new, it's something you will test it out in the market in some limited way. Correct? You will test out how many customers are they accepting or rejecting your product or solution. What was the initial feedback? You would incorporate their feedback into the final product and the solution. You would never be able to launch the perfect solution or the perfect product or service in the very first go. Accept that. It is only when you do a pilot launch would you get some feedback from the market, which then you can incorporate in your solution and then you can take it to the larger market. Third, gathering actionable feedback from real users. Very important. So in many cases, you would have seen that even large companies, they do something called beta testing, right? So even when their product is in a beta testing phase, they do something called user research. So they would ask users what are their needs, what are their desires, what are their pain points, what are their desires, what are their desires, what are their pain points, what are their desires, what are their pain points. So what they would do is stage, sorry, connection issue. I think there was a connection issue, so I'm gonna reshare my screen. Okay, this is where we were. So we were talking about gathering collect actionable feedback from real users. And sorry. Yeah. And the last one is we analyze these insights and we refine our strategy. Is everybody on board with all these 5 steps? So first, I'm just going to repeat them because we had a break in between. First is understanding your target audience. Yeah, it's very important. You know that. So if you think as an entrepreneur, if you ever have this feeling that oh everybody is my customer, no, that's not true. Everybody is not your customer. Even somebody who has a small eatery along the roadside on a highway, you see those dhabas, even that person can't say everybody is my customer. Why? You might think everybody eats food. No, that's not right. Everybody eats food, but there is a certain type of audience that's going to stop by along that eatery or that dhaba. So knowing your audience is very important. Understanding their needs, desires, pain points, very important. Researching the market that you want to enter, understanding what are the current trends, what are the challenges, what are the obstacles that you can potentially face, extremely important. Third, you must pilot test your concept, solution, or your product to get initial feedback. Fourth, gathering actionable feedback from real users. So when you launch in a pilot phase, you will get feedback, and it's very important that you actively gather that feedback to improve your product or your solution. And lastly, whatever insights you get, you use it to refine your product and also refine your strategy. How do we do this? We will know more in the future next slides. Okay, taking the first step, understanding your customer or knowing your customer. We also call it defining the ideal persona or the ideal customer profile. It's also called that sometimes. How do we do that? Okay, basics, age group or gender, demographics. Simply put, demographics. Uh, let's take an example. You are very keen on launching a t-shirt. You know that there are many t-shirt brands that exist in the market, and you also are very clear that there are t-shirts of all price ranges. You can get a t-shirt for 100 rupees, you can get a t-shirt for 10,000 rupees also. But when you decide, oh, I think I want to start a t-shirt brand, I'm sure there would be some concept behind it. Maybe you want to connect it to a certain band. Maybe you want to say, no, I'm going to make t-shirts using tie and dye and using having a way and of a certain style which is appealing to a certain age group and a certain gender. So your first, I would say, data point to define your ideal persona starts at demographics. So the first point we've written is demographics could be as simple as age group and gender. Yeah. Second, location. Who are you trying to sell to? Somebody who is living in a tier 1 city versus the tier 2, tier 3 city, the demographics can vary humongously, right? In terms of their income level, in terms of their lifestyle, in terms of the challenges they face, in terms of their preferences, and so on. Third, connecting to the second point, financial resources or income. So, like I mentioned earlier, in the dhaba example, or even in the location example, you would be very cognizant of what is the income level or what are the financial resources available to your target audience. So the example I just gave, if you're selling a 10,000 rupee t-shirt, you know that only somebody who's buying, who's earning in a certain income bracket can afford that. If you're thinking that if you designed a t-shirt and you're created it, thinking about say the Gen Z demographic, demographic, and that to a very particular age group, even within the Gen Z, you would think that, okay, what will be the disposable income? What kind of pocket money, what kind of money do you think that they would have? What is the target audience I want to cater to, even within that? That this t-shirt should be able to be that they can buy your particular t-shirt, right? Their commute, buying habits, again, who's spending the money, where is the money coming from, how are they commuting? They're all sort of connected to define their ideal persona, if you think about it. And last is interest and lifestyle. So again, if you ask me, these are very basic attributes. I'm not saying these are the only attributes, but for the purpose of today's workshop, this class, fundamentally, I had to keep it simple to say that when you think of your customer or thinking of defining your ideal persona, you have to start thinking in very basic terms to begin with. Yeah. Moving on. Now, this is the time for an exercise. And this is where I would want if you have some kind of pen and paper with you, because, like I said, I want this to be an interactive session, not like a one session monologue. Yeah. So I hope you have your pen and paper because I'm going to share my screen and then I'm going to not share it once you've seen it. And then I'm going to ask you questions and somebody has to answer. So let's profile the ideal customer for this. So on the right hand side, there are three different brands. All of these three different brands are offering some kind of a healthy instant food mix. So the first one comes from Slurp Farm. It is offering millet-based dosa mix. Then you have millet and oats. Then you have another brand called Millix. It's offering again some kind of instant idli mix. Based on your very layman understanding, and I'm sure you are all very smart, you're all students of graphic at a university. I trust your smartness and I trust your intelligence. How would you fill the parameters on the left hand side if you had to define the ideal customer for food products of the kind that you see on the right? So in terms of age, gender, location, financial resources and income, commute channel, buying habits, lifestyle, interest. Okay, I'll give you exactly 1 minute to do this, and then I'm gonna unmute and ask you questions. Is everybody done? It's a very simple one. So I'm gonna stop sharing. And who would want to take a shot? Who would want to go first? Anybody who wants to unmute and answer. Okay, Gia, please unmute yourself and answer.
So ma'am, for the age group, I think 25 plus people who are 25 plus, they are more uh, inclined towards a healthy lifestyle and gender, of course, female. Location is mostly tier one or tier two, and
Mhm.
financially, the income would be someone who is earning more than 50,000 per month. Uh,
Okay.
Buying habits would be like something like health perspective or towards the healthy lifestyle, busy lifestyle. That's why they are buying the
Mhm.
instant mix for healthy and
Okay.
interest. In I don't know interest, ma'am. I didn't pull that.
Okay. 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 Decent. Anybody else who wants to take a shot? Anyone else?
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Mhm.
Good evening, ma'am. So basically, speaking from personal experience, I would mention that it can be utilized by the age group from 20 to 40 years. It can be
Okay.
young working professionals or students in the metros or tier two cities who just need
Mm,
quick, something quick for their lunch, dinner, or anything at all. There can be a secondary age group as well, which can be like which shall be post 40 to 55 years in the
mm,
range, and those can be health conscious homemakers or those who are having any specific diseases like diabetes, cholesterol, so it can be helpful for them as well.
mm,
Apart from that, genders, both the genders work for this product.
mm,
Location, as Gia mentioned, tier 1 and tier 2 cities prominently,
mm,
and
mm.
there are certain cities which are emerging as well, I would call them, such as Dehradun itself. Dehradun is growing rapidly, and not only Dehradun but Chandigarh and Indore, these kind of cities as well would be a good fit for the from the location aspect. Financial resources, looking at the packaging, we can identify that this might be something on a premium side. So anywhere between like 5 LPA plus salary range should fit this product. Commute
Mhm, mm.
channels, it can be e-commerce, Amazon Big Basket or anything. Grofers, it was old one, but offline retails are good, but for offline we should be placing them into
This is
the
about the
health conscious
persona.
stores.
This is
It is
about
about
the
the person.
persona, not about the product. So it's about the potential customer.
Okay. So
Yeah.
about the customer, they should be having weekly grocery top-ups, like those, the packaging is not too big, so they can be weekly buyers or quick breakfast focused persons who
Mm,
value their time and who are
mm.
health conscious.
Okay. Good. Cool. I think even if there's somebody else interested, I'm sorry, but in the interest of time, we have to move along. So there will be more opportunities for other people to speak. So my screen is visible again, I hope. Um, so I want to take inputs. I took inputs from two students. Very rightly said. So both of them had a difference in opinion in terms of the age group. There was some commonality, but I do. But if you look at the products on the right hand side, there are three different kind of products. So I think both of them rightly said. So people who are health conscious, both of them mentioned that. Obviously, the title itself says healthy instant food mix. Second, the second person said that it's for busy professionals. Absolutely, it says instant, right? Who does not want instant right now? Third, yes, it will be available for both genders. Location, you said, somebody said tier two. It could be tier two, tier one. Income, rightly said that it has to be above. He said that these will be educated people, at least 5 lakhs of income a year that they're earning. For sure. This is not something that you'll find in your average Kiryana store. It can come there, but when they would have launched it, they would have actually thought that they are trying to appeal to the urban population who will be able to pick it up. What is this? What is this millet dosa mix? Why do I need to eat healthy? It's instant. So yes, busy professionals for sure. He even said secondary group of people who have some health problems. It's not clear from the packaging, but it was a good guess that he made. So I would still give him points for that. And buying habits, yes, these are people who shop on quick commerce. These are people who would potentially go to a Lamarche or some kind of little high-end grocery store and actually go and buy these things. They have an interest in staying healthy. They probably have a busy lifestyle, etc. So a lot of what you said was correct. And do you realize that just by looking at the product, just by looking at the packaging, and using your own common sense, you were able to come up with these answers. Had you got more information on the product, you would have come up with even better answers. One thing which both of you missed was there's a teddy made on these two. So you missed that this could also be a healthy food mix for children. So one of the ideal customers, and who are the people who buy for children? It's mostly the mothers who are thinking that I need to have something ready to go when my child asks for a snack, and I want it to be healthy also, and I don't want to always give them instant noodles. So that was an important ICP that was missed. But yeah, I think you're getting the grasp of what we are trying to establish here. So great going, guys. Next. Yeah, so now that we've done the ICP, so are you curious about what makes a decision truly smart? Let's move on to the next step. Market research, correct? So we talked about knowing your customers is important. If you remember that entire chain, the second step was researching the market trends and understanding your customer better. So this is going to be slightly, I've just made it like how you would probably see in a PPT on in your classroom, but I thought it is the easiest way for me to explain. So market research, as you can see on the left-hand side in this tree, is broken into primary and secondary research. And then primary is further broken down into qualitative and quantitative. Now, I'm not aware how many of you have already studied this in your class, but like I said, I had to make sure that the basics are covered so nobody is left behind. So I'm sorry if it's a little repetitive for somebody, but I'm sure there's somebody who's learning it for the first time. So, what is the difference between primary and secondary? So secondary research is anything which is already published, anything that is already out there. A very simple example is when you pick up the newspaper and read something, you are getting second-hand information, correct? Because somebody has actually gathered that piece of news, analyzes in their own mind, thought of, okay, this is what the news is, and then made their, from their point of view, written the news, and now you're getting second-hand information. Similarly, anything that you're Googling, whatever you're reading online, whether it's on a blog, on a website, in an annual report, in any kind of anything that you're reading, which is already printed or published, is secondary research because it's second-hand information. And primary, like the name suggests, is first-hand. So it's like if you were to ask me something about something about my education and I respond to it, and you can go and say, no, I asked Kanika directly, and she told me that she went to this school or she went to this college. That's primary research, right? You got first hand information from me. But had you gone to my LinkedIn profile and looked it up and said that I saw on her LinkedIn said that she went to this college, that's second hand information. Got it? Simple. Why is it relevant for market research? Because whatever we research, whatever study we do, it is coming from a combination of primary and secondary, right? Now, why was this important? Frankly speaking, when you actually do your project, or let's say if any of you tomorrow decides to join the market research and consulting industry as an employee, like if you want to make your career here, only theoretically it is relevant. So you should know what it means. But if you are actually working for a client, like we work for our clients. Does my client care what I do in my kitchen? No, they don't. They only care that I bring to them the most ideal solution. And I need to make sure that I give them the most robust answers. What do you mean by robust answers? Again, now this is where it's important for you and I to understand why this is different. Let's say you want to study Dehradun market. Okay, so somebody just said Dehradun is coming up as a big market. So I'm not. Let's say I'm somebody who visited Dehradun like long time back, and I'm not really aware of what's really happening recently in terms of say the F&B market in Dehradun. And what I do is. And one of my friends says that, hey, you know what? I'm thinking of opening a new cafe in Dehradun. Can you help me? You're into market research. Can you tell me if it's a good idea or not? Now imagine if I, without going to Dehradun, without speaking to somebody who's in Dehradun or has good knowledge about that market, I just sit on my laptop and do just some Googling and say, okay, what is the population of Dehradun? And I'm like, this is the population. Okay, which are the major markets? Okay, which are the major brands? And I collect some basic, very theoretical answers and respond to my friend. Do you think that's a good answer? Obviously not, right? Because I've not gathered any first-hand information about this market. What I've gathered could be a good starting point. It could be a good starting point to say, okay, I think where I can go back and tell him that, you know what, the total population is this much. This is the average income level. These are the kind of cafes that already exist there. These are the major markets. People on average are spending this much, and I'm on eating out on a weekly basis. So hence, I think that this could be a good market because blah blah blah. But this is incomplete. It is not thorough. It does not have first-hand information. So if I really want to give him a robust answer, if I really want to tell my friend with confidence whether or not he should open a restaurant or a cafe there, I must go and do primary research. Primary is gather first-hand insights. Either I go and visit the city myself, and when I go and visit the city myself, I talk to people, I talk to consumers, I understand their preferences, I understand what is the average amount people are spending when they eat out on a weekly basis. I understand what kind of habits they are. Do they like what kind of cuisine do they like? Do they actually like eating out or not? And that's when my research will become very robust. Yeah. So market research or any kind of a strategic recommendation that somebody is offering you must come by a combination of primary and secondary both. Now, primary is broken down further into qualitative and quantitative. Now that you've understood the first level, the second will also be clear. Let's look at the first one. Qualitative research. So qualitative research typically comes if in terms of in-depth interviews. The example that I just gave, let's say to actually do that research, I genuinely speak with with say 10 or 20 restaurant owners to understand, in their opinion, how is the market changing? What are the challenges they are facing? What is their input, or what is the preferred cuisine? What is the average ticket size when somebody comes and eats in their restaurant? If I have an in-depth interview with them, it's called interview, in-depth conversation with them, which lasts about say 30 minutes to 1 hour, that will give me a lot of qualitative insights. So we can typically call them in-depth interviews. They can be done face-to-face, they can be done online. Yeah. There are other methods of doing qualitative, assisted telephonic interviewing. So you can pick up the call and talk to somebody and understand their preferences, their needs, their pain points. We can do virtual in-depth interviews. We can talk to experts in the industry. We can do, so for example, if I want to, again, let's look at the same F&B market. If I want to talk about, I might want to talk to some experts who says, okay, you know what, this person has been in the HoReCa industry for say good 30-40 years, and she has a very good idea about Uttarakhand and very good idea about Dehradun. So this is the person I need to talk to. He might have insights. So we call these people as industry experts. They might be the people who could be giving you the right answers. Customer persona workshops. So if you define your ideal persona, you might want to get them all in a conference room, have them talk to each other, and you can observe them. It's called focus group discussions, and you simply there as a moderator and observer to understand what their preferences are. Interactive feedback loops is again another method where you throw in some input, you see how they respond, and you make sense of it. Yeah. So there are multiple ways of doing qualitative research. Now we come to the second one, quantitative research. Now, in the same example, say I actually went ahead and interviewed 25 restaurant owners in Dehradun, right? And they've given me a lot of good qualitative insights. But having said that, am I still completely sure in terms of the inputs, in terms of whether the larger mass or the larger population of Dehradun completely is in line with what the inputs they've given me? Not exactly. Okay. I can't say that what 25 people said is what everybody in Dehradun or say the larger population of Dehradun also agrees with it. So what do I do? I can run a survey. So what I'll do is the qualitative insights that I've derived will help me create some fundamental hypothesis basis which I can create a survey or a questionnaire, as you would call it in layman terms, and circulate it in my desired target audience, and then say that, okay, wow, 75% audience genuinely agrees to what we put in the survey. So let's say the interviews reveal that the most preferred cuisine is North Indian, number one, and the second most preferred is Chinese or Asian, as you might want to call it. But that is coming from limited number of people. But when I actually run the survey in my ideal target customers, who are people who will come and actually eat in my restaurant, then that's when I can say, oh, I validated these hypotheses by running a survey in the larger group of people and thousands of people, and this is what the survey results are. So we validate the hypothesis derived from the qualitative research by running quantitative research, which is in the form of survey. And I just use the exam and I just use the word questionnaire for survey. But when I move to the next slide, you would actually see that we want to say that survey is not a questionnaire. Okay. So simply put, and I'm sure some of you would have done this for some kind of a project in your school or in your college, or recently for some project which as a part of, some subject of yours, where somebody said, okay, fine, let's run a survey. So very simply put, everybody thinks that, oh, I can design a survey. And yes, from a layman point of view, you can design a survey by thinking of these are the questions I want to test and give them, say, some objective type answers, like 4 options for every answer. And you can say, now my survey is created. I'll put it on Google form and I'll just put it in a WhatsApp survey group. But unfortunately, there are a lot of things wrong with that. Number one, when we are designing surveys as layman people, there are a lot of things that we are missing. Firstly, we might have a tendency to ask leading questions, which may not get us the right answer. What does that mean? Um, we might, I'll give you an example. Say in a group of 100 people, okay, I ask a question, how many people here want to get healthy? And everybody might raise their hand. Then I ask another question. How many people think that going to the gym regularly is very good for their health? And again, 99 people raises their hand. And I think, oh wow, see, everybody thinks, almost 99 people out of 100 think that going to the gym is extremely healthy. So that means I must open a gym and it will be successful. But do you think that's actually true? If I were to actually open the gym in a city where there were only these exact 100 people and nobody else, and even if 99 people out of 100 raise their hand, does that mean that they will actually come and join my gym? No. Why? Because the kind of questions I asked were very leading questions. Okay, leading means I want to buy. I am biased to believe that whatever I'm thinking is correct. But in reality, I know that there is a difference in the people's behavior in what they think theoretically and how they will actually act in their life. Yes. So, what I'm trying to say is that there is actually science behind designing the ideal survey also. It means that you should not fall into traps of confirmation bias. It means that you make sure that your question is not written in a way that you will get the answer that you're desiring to, that you want to get the answer as. Hence, many times it happens that people have run a market research survey, and but when they actually piloted their product or their service, the results that they got was very different from what the survey said. And then they say that, oh, market research failed. But the reality is that market research did not fail. Probably the way you've done it is not the right way. Hence, it is a survey, is not a questionnaire. That's very important. Second, if you just float a survey in a WhatsApp group, you are not sure that it is going to your desired target audience, right? And like we've already discussed in the previous slides, it is extremely important that your survey is actually being answered by your defined target audience. If you think I can just make a survey in a Google form and I'll just float it around, you have no control about who's answering your questions. Maybe your target audience was a female homemaker between the age group of 35 to 45. But there is some bored teenager somewhere who's filled the same form 30 times and you don't know who has filled your form. So do not make the mistake of thinking that just because I've created a questionnaire in a Google form and I can just float it around, that means I'm running a survey. No, not at all. It is not the same thing. But why is survey important? Number one, it quantifies your opinions and behaviors. The example that I just gave. So let's say you have a hypothesis that maximum people in that city think that the most preferred cuisine is North Indian food. But when you actually run the survey with your desired target audience in the right manner, only then you can quantify that, oh, no, you know what? My thinking was wrong. It seemed like only 33 people have said that the most preferred cuisine is that, right? Then validating your assumptions with data, like we talked about, identifying trends and opportunities. There could be things that could be you've just not identified, but the survey will actually tell you that. And hence, sorry, going back, these are the 3 reasons why quantitative research is important. Yeah. Moving on, how market survey works. We've already sort of covered it. Like I said, questionnaire design, creating the perfect questionnaire for your target audience, programming it on the right tool. So Google, I was giving examples of Google Form again because that's the most familiar one that people have typically heard about. I'm sure you've also heard names like Freeform and Survey Sparrow and Survey Monkey, etc. So you can use any tool, even Qualtrics, for example. You program it, you distribute it to the right audience, the most relevant audience. You collect the results, you analyze and you report, and then the final recommendations come out. So we've already discussed this, and logically also, I'm sure you all understand this already. This so I've talked about why it is important that you don't disseminate the survey to just generally everyone. And I told you that it is important for you to send out the survey to your most relevant audience, right? How will you do that? So this is a slide by Mindcog, and hence it says Mindcog here. So Mindcog, for example, has a panel of 70 million plus respondents who are already pre-profiled on 100 plus attributes. So if you look at these boxes on the bottom, so let's look at the first box. So what I mean to say is, imagine that there's 70 million, I have a database of 70 million people, and I have all the data points that you've seen here of the 70 million people and more. Okay, so we've just on this slide, we've only written the most important ones, but there are profile of 100 plus attributes. So age, gender, income, marital status, geography, race, purchase decisions, do they have children, do they have grandchildren, what languages they speak, etc. From the B2B perspective, are they working? If yes, what job function, what seniority level, what industry, what location, etc. Again, on the right, if you see buying behavior, do they have affinity for a particular brand, etc. How much do they spend on an average on groceries, etc. So all of these are paid audience, okay? So if you were to come, or so if anybody has to come to Mindcog, for example, and say that, you know what, let's look at the same example of, say, the millet mix. And if that company were to come to Mindcog and say that we've designed these instant millet mix to cater to for as a healthy snack option for children, and we're targeting women who would have children between the ages of 5 to 15 years, and we think that these are women between 27 to 45, who have a certain age in tier 1 cities of India, in a certain income group, who go and buy, who buy from quick commerce, who go and buy in certain kinds of grocery stores. We can source this exact audience from this panel and make sure that the survey goes to these right people, and hence when they actually respond, our client actually believes that yes, there must be truth to this. So it's not like we've created a survey link and, like I said, put to generic, like to all mothers wherever, because probably not all mothers are the target audience. Yes, I'm assuming that you're all with me so far because I'm really explaining this very slowly. Moving on. So we've already covered qualitative, quantitative. Now let's talk about secondary research. So primary is covered, secondary research. So I said that anything that you read online, anything that you read which is already printed or published somewhere is called secondary research. You also call it desk search. What are the methods, as you would see on the slide? So what are the sources you can refer to? Government publications and reports, of course. Be be very mindful that when you go and Google, let's say, I'll give you a simple example. You say that I want to Google the size of denim industry or denim market in India and globally. You can Google and you will get some answer, right? But should you take the first answer as the right answer? Absolutely not. You don't know. The first answer could be the one which is just on the top because of because of the SEO ranking. But is that source correct? That could be coming from a blog where the person who's maintaining that blog has done very good SEO. But you do not know for sure that answer is correct or not. Okay. Hence, the purpose of the slide is to tell you which are the most strongest sources, most authentic sources. What is the kind of data you can believe? Government publications and reports. Second, market research reports from other companies, not from every company. There are some trusted brands which obviously do better than the others. For example, if you're reading a report from Gartner, you're reading a report from Forrester, from McKinsey, these are trusted higher than reports from other companies. I don't want to name anyone because I don't want to belittle any company, but there are companies which are more trusted than others. Third, official companies and their websites. So, for example, if I decide that I'm going to gather this information by looking at some of the top 5 largest players, the top 10 largest players in the denim market, I go to their website. I actually collect data because and I think these are public listed companies. So I want to look at their annual reports. We've already covered annual reports here. I want to talk about what the CEO is saying. This company's been in this business for over 100 years. I would believe that more versus the company who recently started. Okay. Blogs, articles, press releases. Yes, you can refer to them. But like I mentioned already, already. Just don't refer to like one blog, one article. So there's something called triangulation also in terms of data. So refer to more than two sources to really make sure if the data is authentic or not. If the data point, or it could be qualitative insight also. So to make sure that the qualitative insight is authentic or not, make sure that multiple sources are saying it. Make sure that what you're reading is not an opinion, but rather actually an insight. Yeah. And of course, lastly, research papers and journals, so which generally come from universities. So something is coming from Harvard Business Review, something is coming from Stanford. Like some very authentic university could be coming from IIT in India. Some professor has written this after doing a lot of research. That obviously will be more authentic versus picking up something random just from the top, like the first results you get on the internet. Yeah. Okay. Because you talk about secondary research, obviously now you all have access to ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, Claude, all of this, right? So, and a lot of people are already saying that, oh, now we don't need to do research. Now we can only rely on ChatGPT. I can put, let's say you got like an assignment in college that, okay, create a 3-page report on the denim industry in India and how does that connect to US, and like, okay, I'm just going to give a very nice prompt to ChatGPT, and whatever it throws up, I'm going to capture it. Is that the right way to go about it? Absolutely not. So this slide is about that, AI and research. My personal suggestion, being in this industry for a long time, is that use AI as your ally, but do not take it as a final word. Okay, let's see what it says. So AI, what does AI do? AI has a power to process large amounts of information in a very short span of time. So obviously, in the same example, if I were to tell you, give me a one-page synopsis on the denim industry, and let's say you did not have access to AI, you will take much longer to even research, Google, um, conceptualize what you want to put together, then reword it, write it in your own word, and give me like a one-page summary of what you think is a synopsis of denim industry. Yeah. But if you had access to ChatGPT or a Gemini or some other another similar tools, you might just want to download and give me the first one. But I don't think that's the right way to go about it. I think you should only use AI to help you do things faster, but don't think that whatever it gives me is the right thing. And we've seen this time and again. I think you should always use the combination of these tools and your own intelligence to really come up with the right answer. And like this Venn diagram shows, so use AI to process things faster, but don't. Hello? Yeah, I thought I heard somebody speak. But use your own mind to really understand what is right and what is wrong. You would have, I'm sure, you would have read this report. I think it was about 2 days back or so. Deloitte actually charged $440,000 to the Australian government to prepare a report. And when they audited that report, Deloitte had actually used AI to make that report, and which had not only false references, but it had actually created data which never existed. So they had actually mentioned instances of some judge saying something at some point, and that just did not exist. He never gave that verdict. Whatever said was also not true. So it's like, this is where I tell you that AI hallucinates. Don't think what AI is telling you is correct. You can use it as a starting point. Starting point is fine. Your professor gives you something to work on. You might use a starting point, but don't completely think that whatever it says is correct. And you know what? It's so embarrassing for a company like Deloitte to have done this kind of mistake, and now they're refunding the money, and it's now everywhere. Imagine who's going to trust them with their kind of projects. So unfortunately, like, again, it's like a cautionary tale that, like, don't completely rely on AI. But there are some tools which are better than the others, especially in terms of research, and some of them are mentioned here: Perplexity, Grok, Claude. These are obviously better. And of course, ChatGPT also, if you're using, use the paid version. But what do you use it for? Exploring multiple perspectives, drafting hypotheses or narratives, identifying emerging trends efficiently. So you can do things faster, but don't think like, if this is what it is, then like my job here is done. No. But you have to use your human intelligence. You have to validate the data. You have to make sure where it is picking it up from, and it is not incorrect, right? So like it said on the right, powered by human intelligence, so cross verify your sources, validate insights, question the outliers, question the bias. How do you know that AI is not falling for any bias? apply your own logic, apply contextual, emotional, ethical judgment. Yeah. So, like the answer says here, smart researchers use AI as co-pilot and not the pilot. Yeah. So use it as your assistant. Don't let it lead you. You lead yourself and just use it as your intern, unpaid intern. Moving on. So two examples here. We've talked so much about market validation and market research now. So I thought this was a good point for me to pause the theoretical part a bit and give you actual examples. So both Dropbox and Airbnb are success stories. So what did Dropbox do? They actually wanted to validate the market. So they launched like this explainer video to which demonstrated the capability of Dropbox functionality. And what happened as a result? That the beta waitlist actually surged from 5,000 to 75,000 users. Yeah. Similarly, Airbnb, I'm sure you all know the story of how it started. So I'm not going to repeat it, how this one person had this air mattress and they sort of used it to have somebody stay with them. So they got the idea from there, but they actually started doing it. They did it during a conference to test the outcome, and they actually saw that people were generating like about $1,000 in revenue over a weekend, which sort of validated that not only are people willing to do it, but there are people who are willing to come and take it and willing to pay for it also. So this is like some kind of a validation. So both of these are examples. We talked about this. Remember, in that chain, at some point, it said that you have to pilot launch to test your concept, to test your solution, product, whatever it is, to genuinely see is there an uptake of it? Are people wanting it? Are people willing to pay for it? And here, so those were examples of successes of companies which validated the market. These are three examples which failed, who did not validate the market. Amazon Fire Phone. I don't know how many people know about this. Amazon Fire Phone, what they did, they created their own Amazon ecosystem. So, and did not allow some of access to some of the most fundamental apps. So, for example, people did not have access to Google Maps. They did not have access to Gmail on this phone, and it's expensive. So, it was not solving the most basic needs of people, and it was not even catering to any specific desires. So, it failed. Amazon lost $120 million in this launch. Google Glass. Again, it's an innovation way ahead of its time. It had too many functionalities. People did not really care about it. So, this is another example. It's not that only a bad product fails. Sometimes the product can be made extremely well with so many functionalities, but people have to need it, right? If nobody needs your product, why will they buy it? They would not care how fancy it is. They might look at an opening video, but that's about it. They will not buy it. Yeah. Third, again, Juicero. It was a mixer juicer, which nobody wanted. Extremely overpriced, was very gimmicky, had too many complicated functionalities. It had Wi-Fi, barcoding, which was again not in that time not needed, and people could actually use their hand to squeeze the same Juicero juice boxes that they were also selling. And there were many cheaper alternatives in the market, which people found much easier to use. Again, the company lost a lot of money. So these are clear examples that they thought that my product is great, but they did not go and validate it in the market or not. And hence this loss. And these are, look at the brands. These are Amazon, Google, like the big brands who made this mistake. So it's not like only a first-time founder can make a mistake. So what does that say? So data is like a good pizza, right? It's all about the right toppings. And pineapple, so it's like, too much data is like pineapple. So some people like pineapple in the pizza, some people don't. So it's really important to just hit the right sweet spot in terms of data and using it rightly. So understanding customers, we've just talked about understanding your customers, understanding your market. We talked about, do you understand their needs and pain points? But our job does not end here, right? Because understanding customers is essential, but it is not enough. What is also important? Any guesses? Competition. Competition is extremely important. So whenever you want to enter a market, even if you think, even in case of products where you think that it's first of its kind, it would still have some close substitute. It would still have something which people would have not, people were using before this product came into being as a response to whatever the problem that the product was solving, right? So competitive analysis is extremely important. It is extremely important for you as an entrepreneur, as a founder, to understand What is the objective of my customer, of my competition? What are their strategies? What kind of products or solutions they're offering? What are their sales and marketing strategies? What are their strengths and weaknesses, etc.? And this is what we'll see in the coming slides. Yeah, 5 pillars of competitive intelligence: measuring and evaluation of the CI program, competitive intelligence program, conducting research and competitor analysis, developing a right competitive strategy and sales battle cards, content distribution and knowledge sharing, and building engagement and buy-in. So some of this might sound a little jargon. Uh, it's very common in our industry, but don't worry, I'm going to explain everything. So it is extremely important, like I said, to understand your competition. And you have to have a proper strategy to really keep up to date of everything your competition is doing, not just in terms of what they're offering, but how they're offering, at what sweet spot of price they're offering, what channels they're using to offer it, uh, what kind of retention does my competition have, and why do they have kind of that kind of retention in terms of customer. Yeah. So competitive intelligence powers better decisions, of course, because you would never be in a market where you have zero competition. It'd be extremely rare for companies to have zero competition. So it is important that if you really want to build a business which can grow and which can scale, that you have to always stay updated on what your competition is doing. 6 steps you've already mentioned. We've talked about this in the previous slide. Identifying their objective, identifying their determination, identifying what their strategy is, what are their strengths and weaknesses. See, your competition can have a weakness that you can play on. You can build for that. You can solve for it. Maybe it's very expensive and you think that I can undercut their price and solve for it. Maybe they're missing some very important feature that you can add to your product or your solution, and then that's how you might want to beat them. Yeah. Understand the reaction pattern estimation. What does that mean? Means how soon do they launch the next update? How quickly do they respond to market changes? Understanding that and trying to, think smarter, think better than them. Choosing who's your right target. So it could be, again, let's look at that mixes problem, right? Mixes example, food mixes. Maybe some food mixes are only targeting the busy professionals when the same food can be offered to a teenager. So maybe your competition is not has completely missed out on one target audience that could just be ideal. You go and target them, right? So there are different ways of meeting your customer. In some cases, it could be just doing better marketing than your competitor. In other cases, it could be identifying a new niche. It could be identifying a new target audience, which your competitor has just not thought about, and you can go and play in that area. Yeah. So to understand this better, I actually thought that we can do like a comparison, like we can do a comparison of this, like of the quick commerce market. So I'm sure you're all aware of Blinkit and Zepto and Swiggy Instamart. Recently, Flipkart Minutes was also launched. Now, all these four companies, which by the way exist in a market that is projected to reach $8 billion by 2028, which is humongous market, humongous. It's extremely important. How do they differ from each other? So just look at this comparison. So Flipkart Minute. So on the left, you have some parameters. Yeah. So what is the objective? How many dark stores do they have? What's the delivery speed? See, so interesting. Flipkart Minutes were recently launched. So obviously, if it's got launched later after all of these, it has to do something to actually lure consumers towards it. So it's actually start with 8 to 15 minutes, right? Blink is saying 10 to 15 minutes. I don't know if they're actually doing it. I've not used Flipkart Minutes so far, but I'm just giving an example that if you've started, so somebody can have the first mover advantage in a market. But let's say you're entering a market where you don't have the first mover advantage. You would need to do something differently from your competition so as to get your early consumers. It could either be that you add a new kind of a feature which they don't have. For example, here it's saying that, okay, I'll deliver it in 8 minutes. Or number two, you can actually offer it at a cheaper rate. Or number three, you can add some add-on, some freebie to it. The idea is that you have to think about how do I lure at least some portion of the customers which are attached to my competitor right now, and I'm a new player in the market to come towards me. Yeah. Look at the product assortment here. I think we don't have the number, we don't have the details in terms of numbers, but yeah, I think you get the gist what I'm trying to explain. That you have to think about what would be my competition is doing and what I can do differently. So you might want to do some things which are like a bare minimum that, like these 4 things, all my competition is offering, I must offer this. And here, nobody is offering this. Can I build for it? Do I have the money? Do I have the resource? Do I have the knowledge to build for it? So let me build for it because that might be a unique selling proposition of my company, of my product or solution. And that's how I might actually uh, basically attract customers. Yeah. $85% is a stat. 85% of businesses report that market research does influence critical decisions, including product development, pricing, market entry, and which is why it's so important. So I think at this point we've come to a case study, but before I actually go to the case study, I would want to actually pause and ask you if there are any questions that you have, which we can discuss before I discuss the case study. You can just raise your hand and we can discuss. Should I then continue with the case study if there are no questions? Because that's the end of the deck. So okay. So this is an actual project that came to Mindcog. The company is called Food and Beyond, and the company wants to enter the Indian market, and what they're offering is a vegan pizza. And they wanted us to validate whether they should come to the market or not. So simply that's why their topic says Indian market entry assessment for vegan food player. Yeah. Now, what did we do? We actually evaluated, is there enough market for a vegan food product to be sold in India? Now we already know that there are a lot of vegan food products that sell in India, but what is the size of the market? So what is the current size? Sorry, what's the future potential? What are the growth trends? What are the challenges? What are the opportunity areas? How does the supply chain work? At what point do they enter? Where should they actually sell? So they actually made us even evaluate the 3 major distribution channels. So one could be that they could just come and be sold in Horeca. Horeca is in the hospitality industry, hotels, restaurant, cafes, right? Or they said we can actually go by the private healthcare route. Right. Third, they said travel. So you even get food in airplanes, you get food in in railways. What if that's the way for them to go? So they wanted us to understand not only the potential of the market, not only the consumer behavior, whether they like it, no like it, what is the desired price point, but also where should they sell it? What should be the distribution strategy? And what should be so it's different channels and price points. How much money are people willing to pay for something like this? And lastly, who is the competition? And like I mentioned previously, competition does not mean that the competition will only be another vegan pizza player, right? It could be anything. It could be fundamentally anybody who's seeking vegan food. There could be so many alternatives to vegan food. So when somebody who's actually gluten allergic to gluten only has vegan food, when they go to the market, for them, when they say vegan, everything under vegan will be competing with the same pizza when the person has to choose for whatever they want to eat. So competition means indirect competition also like that. So what did we do? This is how we ran the project. So we actually starting with global market because we always start with putting a context to the opportunity size that we're looking at. So even if we were looking at Indian market opportunity size for this kind of food, we put in context the global market size as well. Then we studied if you look at here, global gluten-free food market size, we in fact studied the size of all gluten-free food in India, all vegan food in India. We studied the population. We studied population which was lactose intolerant. We studied population. We even did a geographic analysis of India. I don't have this is just one slide, but if I could show you the output, I would be able to show you that number of people who are suffering from celiac disease, and it actually came out that majority of people who genuinely suffer from celiac disease are actually concentrated in North India. Some people are eating gluten-free or vegan only because it's a fad, but there are people who are actually medically suffering and they cannot eat that. So it started from that level. We covered where all is the market prevalent currently of vegan food or gluten-free food in India? What channels are they selling in? We find channels for like we've already talked about distribution channels. We looked at aviation, railways, hospitality, horeca, market size for vegan food in all these different channels, even including the supply chain. That if you were to supply if you want your pizza or if you want your food product to be supplied in the airline, who do you contact to? So there are airline food catering companies like TajSats and similar other companies. How do you want to partner with them? Who do you connect with? Everything we studied. It was a very, very in-depth study. And which again, like I said, competition was always studied, major players, tour drivers, etc., to really come and then collectively tell them that what was the opportunity for them. Yeah. And ultimately, we were able to tell them what's the overall opportunity size, who are the players that they will be competing with, which are the most lucrative areas geographically for them to sell in, what are the ideal price points people are willing to pay, and what were the right places for them to go and sell. We even identified some local partners for them to enter the Indian market because they were entering India for the first time. Yeah. So, yeah, this is again an example of why market research is so important. Yeah. So with that, we've come to the end of the presentation. And as I close it, I want to all leave you with this thought that if you were a founder tomorrow, what would be your first bold step? So, any questions? Shriyukt has a question. Okay.
Not a
Please.
question, ma'am, but an answer,
Mhm.
I guess. You asked what would be my bold step if I go out to become
Yeah.
a founder tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my first bold step would be to go out and research on the foreground or the forefront of what am I doing with my users in place, because I have tried it before to build some smart glasses of my own. And what I did was I was building smart glasses for disabled people, and I had gone to some NGOs and disability school to run my pilot test and do research for the project first, and then I
Hmm.
got into this all of this thing.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's a very novel idea, and I like that you actually went ahead and did that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else who wants to share something or ask a question, please feel free. I'm here.
Hi, Kanika. Good evening. So I wanted
Hi.
to ask, like, a lot of the audience here, like, are primarily students who are still in the ideation phase, where they're
Hmm.
trying to validate an idea. So everyone feels
Hmm.
like they have the best idea ever. But I wanted to ask if you can actually enlighten them about the first few steps which they should be doing, or some little exercises that they should be doing in order to validate that themselves, small little ideas, because they're still in the process of choosing sectors and deciding which direction to go. So anything that you would like to share in that direction? Thanks.
Yeah. So, like I talked about during my presentation, the very, very first step is to understand who are you building it for. Be very clear about it. So if you have some ideas, it is very important to understand who am I planning to do it to do this for. So I give the example of a t-shirt business, and I picked up t-shirt because I thought it's very easily relatable, and it's also a kind of product which already exists, and there's so many brands that exist, right? So it's not like it's like a brand new, it's a very innovative thing. But who am I building it for? That has to be very clear. So, they always say that if somebody who says that, oh, anybody can be my client, then I'm sorry, no, not anybody, nobody's going to be your client, because then you don't know who are you building it for. So even something which you think is a generic product or a generic service which can be used for everybody, no, it's not. You have to understand, firstly, who am I building it for? Number one. Number two, if you have a better sense of it, not only will it help you refine your product or your solution, um, which is very important, but it'll also tell you how would you approach these kind of people. How would you sell to them, right? So being an entrepreneur is not, there are two very, very important things in being an entrepreneur. I'll be very honest. Number one, my product and service, whatever I'm offering. Number two, my ability to sell it. Okay. If either of these two are missing, then you don't have a business. You all agree with me, I'm sure, right? If I don't have nothing to sell, then I have nothing. Like if I don't have a product or service, I have nothing to sell. Or if I could have the best product or best service, but if I don't know how to sell, then again I'm not an entrepreneur because nobody's buying from me. So to be able to not, so like I said, knowing your customer is extremely important. Unko samjho, what are their needs, what are their desires, what are their pain points. This will help you refine what you are thinking about. It could be a product, it could be a service, number one. Number two, it will also tell you how will I sell to them? On what basis will I sell to them? So even knowing their NDP, which I just talked about, needs, desires, pain points, will help you. This is what I will use to sell to them. I will this is what their pain point is. And I'm going to have my messaging such that, you know what, if you use this pain point of yours will be solved. So both these things are extremely important. So knowing your customer is the first thing, which will obviously help you refine your product and your go-to-market strategy. Number three is doing a pilot test. Okay, to test out at a pilot level, you don't need a lot of resources, and this is something which a lot of people fail to understand. I go like we're doing this online session, but I've gone and done talks in so many colleges and universities that people come and ask me, but I don't have the money, so how should I start? And I want to tell them you don't need money to start. Your first set of customers, your first set of people can be your friends and family. Your product does not have to be perfect. You can actually, I'm sure there are so many ways to actually, even if you need like 1,000 rupees to start, I'm sure that you will have 1,000 rupees to start already because you come from decent families that are already studying in an institute. So you can't say that I don't even have 1,000 rupees to start. Number one. Number two, we live in a gig economy. So anybody who thinks that I need a little more money and I need more money, I don't want to ask my parents or ask anybody around me. Find a way to gather the initial set of, your initial moat, as you call it, and use that if you need to create that product or that solution. And your initial set of customers will always be people that you already know. All mostly 90% of the cases, that's what the case is, that your initial customers will be people that you already know, and you test it out with them, see what they have to say, take their feedback. Your first cut of your product or your service will never be perfect, and that's fine. That's the whole point of it. The whole point of it is that you test it out, take the feedback, and then refine. And only, like, somebody said, like it said that if the first cut of your product is not embarrassing for you, that means you're too late. So never ever think that I'm embarrassed and I don't know how to do this. Yeah, I hope this is something which is useful for everybody here. Any other questions? See, even if you don't have questions right now, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm quite responsive and I love talking to students. So I mean, you might hear a little later, but you will hear from me for sure. So don't think that this is ending here only. Okay, I think
Thank you, Kanika. It was a great
yeah,
Thank you,
session.
ma'am.
Really happy to
yeah,
hear from a woman founder.
my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. We would be happy to host you. So if you're coming to Dehradun, we would be happy to have you over and have these students interact with you in a live environment. Thank you. Over
Love
to
to
you,
do
Lisa.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, for the amazing session. And thank you to all the students for joining us for the Founders Launchpad. And I hope that ma'am was well able to put her into all into our shoes and just imagine that what all things we'll be facing when we'll be starting this our startup or building anything, because there are a lot more frictions when we start as a student, not just financials but also many things comes into the picture, and you were well able to match our mindset and just answer all those questions and all those things which we'll be facing for us as a students when we start on. And yeah, thank you so much. We'll be having
You're
much
welcome.
more sessions with you in future, and we'll be happy to connect you and collaborate with
Done.
you. I'm sorry.
No, look forward to it. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you,
Shweta, we
everyone.
just
Thank you,
had like
ma'am.
one, one or two questions in the chat. I think one we have. So if you have the time, you can take it up. Otherwise, we can skip.
I was thinking, one second. But basically, like, what is the question here? How about going into? You're asking me. See, it depends on two things, right? One is your interest in that, and second, what kind of market opportunity you see there. So if you want to go into the market which already is established and you think there are many, many players already in that market, but you want to enter the market, maybe because there must be a reason, right? Either you have an interest, you think you can do things differently. Uh, Absolutely. Why not? So, market, if you think there's an opportunity there, and if you think that you can bring together resources and the skill set to get into the market, absolutely. Absolutely. It would be, and so if you noted, there was a second step on the that path that we showed. The first was know your audience. Second itself was researching the market. The case study also that I talked about the vegan pizza. The first step that we did was to identify the opportunity size. So if you think that the reason I want to get into this market is because there's a huge opportunity and nobody in India is making some particular product type, or maybe even if they're making the percentage is very small, it's largely being imported. And if you think that you can bring in the capability and the resources, you can mobilize the right kind of players. Like even as a student, you might think, oh, but how will I do? Either you can find the right partners who can help you do this. You can put in your sweat equity. It could be their machinery, it could be their funding. There are so many ways to be an entrepreneur. Like one thing I think I've not mentioned in my talk, and I always mention it. There's no better time like the present to be an entrepreneur. No better time. Like if you want to be an entrepreneur, this is the easiest and the best time. And like today, it is such a thing that even if God forbid you fail, nobody's going to judge you because we are in that time that even if you feel you will learn so much from it that you can actually do better again the next time. Most of the successful entrepreneurs that you see today, it is not at the first time that they hit their success. I'm talking about the big ones, which you say online and on LinkedIn or on social media. They've tried things and they've leveraged the learnings from that to their current thing, which you think is a big success. So please, like whoever wants to be an entrepreneur, this is the best time ever. Just find the opportunity, find the niche, and go for it. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank
Then,
you, ma'am.
you're welcome. Welcome. All the best.
Thank you.